Hello everyone. Today we'll be discussing a report using the Greenbone vulnerability assessment tool, and as well as trying to find some hidden servers using a different variety of scanning tools. So without further ado, let's get started. So first, let's begin with the executive summary. This report had the aim to find two hidden servers within a network. This included a scan of the network along with a vulnerability assessment conducted with Greenbone, which is a vulnerability assessment tool with all sorts of different options such as targets on different IP addresses, conducting different tasks. Um, the network scanning portion of the assignment was done using a couple different tools, the first of which was the network mapper tool Nmap. Um, and after the servers had been mapped, the hidden Linux server was put through the Greenbone assessment, which showed many medium and high risks associated with that IP address, which was the hidden IP address on the network for the Linux machine at least. Later in the presentation, I will provide a screen capture of the system with the network mapper Nmap tool. So the purpose of this presentation is to quickly surmise the report along with giving visual aid, which may help illustrate the point of needing added security in the Linux system at least. As we will see, it has many ports and services open that are considered to be outdated. My methodology for conducting this report was to first research widely about the Greenbone tool, which was used to actually conduct the reports. It was used using a Kali machine on our lab network, and I used it to conduct the vulnerability assessment, obviously, and I also included research of Nmap and Wireshark, which allowed me to conduct some packet inspection and see what services and other services are technically not open on the network for different IP addresses, that is. So now let's discuss some key findings that I had for the different IP addresses on the network. My first major key find was obviously discussing, or finding rather, the hidden Linux server with the IP address of 192.168.1.30. Basically, my methodology was to find all the networks, or all the IP addresses rather, on the network that I was scanning, and compare that against a list of networks that I had from the different machines. So I had a total of 3 IP addresses from the different machines on my network. One was an Ubuntu machine, one was a Kali machine, and one was a Windows machine, and I had gotten all of their IP addresses. Now on the Kali machine, I decided to conduct an Nmap scan of the entire network so it would show me all the IP addresses. And it gave me a total of 6. One was the default gateway with 192.168.1.1, so I could obviously rule that out. And then that left me with 2 servers. The one I obviously mentioned below, the 192.168.1.30, and then, as you can see a little bit lower in the slide, 192.168.1.250. So these were the only 2 servers that I did not recognize, and interestingly enough, I used a Nmap scan to try to determine the operating system using the -O option, and all of them returned, or both of them rather, returned being a Linux system. However, one of the Linux systems in 192.168.1.30 had many services open that you would typically expect a machine to have open that was unsecured, and the other machine only had 1 service open or port open, which was port 1688, which is a TCP port typically used for KMS traffic on Microsoft machines, which I found was interesting as it seemed to be running Linux OS. Another key finding was my inability to discover the Windows machine. Despite having conducted the research on how to do so, my scan for the network included tools such as I did for the Kali machine in Nmap and Wireshark to do a little bit of deep packet inspection on those, but unfortunately I was unable to find anything about the hidden Windows machine. And also with the hidden Linux server, there were many security issues after conducting an Nmap scan on that network, as we will discuss in the next slide. So yes, as we can obviously see, this is the Nmap scan for the 192.168.1.30 machine. You can obviously see some completely outdated services running, such as Telnet. Telnet has been obsolete for quite some time and was quickly outdated after its release. Some other interesting services being run on this machine is Microsoft DS, which is obviously typically used for Windows machines. However, this is a Linux machine. As I had described in the previous slide, I use the Nmap tool to discover the operating system of all the machines. This machine is also using some other typical services, but another service that's insecure, or unsecured rather, is HTTP on port 80. This is obviously the unsecured version of HTTPS, which uses encryption to try to secure systems better. And as we can see, there's many services running along with some SQL database services, some shell services, FTP, simple message transfer protocol. But yes, pretty much a lot of services that have security issues. My recommendation would be to, first of all, replace the HTTPS, or HTTP rather, with HTTPS to secure pulling assets from a website and also browsing the internet. Another recommendation would obviously be to block the port telnet, or block the service telnet rather, as it's considered widely unsecure. And would also be to just close down some of these unnecessary ports, such as MySQL, the Microsoft DS, just kind of block some of these that are giving unnecessary traffic to this machine. Now, I know this was not required, but I decided to include it anyways. This is the screen capture of the Windows system. As I had previously discussed, I was unable to find the hidden Windows server. But I'll just talk through my methodology in a little bit more of a technical detail. So first, my strategy was to do the Nmap scan like I talked about in the previous couple slides and try to find the operating system of the Windows machine, but the only one I could find was the 192.168.1.20. And there weren't really any security issues I could find with this machine. As you can see, it had secure shell running and HTTPS, both secure services. But anyways, I had begun with the Nmap scan, and then I didn't find anything. I had no results from that. So I decided to try to use Wireshark and create some ping requests for each of the IP addresses I had found on the network, to see if maybe through some deep packet inspection, maybe the Nmap scan was wrong and the operating system was not actually correct on the Nmap scan. So I had conducted some of that, checking out the ICMP requests through Wireshark, and all of the ones that I found for each of the packets that Wireshark had captured, I did not find any proof of any of them being Windows machines. So it was unfruitful, but that was basically my methodology to try to finding the Windows system. Any other methods I had looked at online were a bit unreasonable and out of the scope of this report. But yes, despite that, this Windows system is obviously very secure. doesn't have any unnecessary ports or outdated services running, so nothing to worry about in this system. And lastly, we have a few references. These references were also used in the vulnerability assessment paper, but I just transferred them across to give the same credit as was found in the paper.